So welcome to this new interview at Shure Talk. Today we have Mr. Andrea Taglia from Italy. Funny fact, we are both from Italy, and you have been my very first RF teacher long ago in Modena. I think it was 2000. So Andrea, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I have been studying this subject many years ago when in Italy there was not a support from institutions. So I went to study in Austria. Well, actually, living in Austria and studying in Germany. Then I came back in the early 90s in Italy and I started to take care of most of the RF big jobs that were taking place in Italy, basically musicals. And then I met Mr. Bocelli in the mid 2000, and I started to work with him and consulting for some companies for developing specific products. And right now I'm sharing my time between kind of sound manager for Bocelli and taking care of some consultancy jobs around the world.
So starting with your experience with Bocelli, you recently, during this very difficult time for everyone, you got the chance to have a live event. Okay, no public, but it was a lot of people attended it. The numbers of YouTube live streaming were, I think, amazing. So, do you want to tell us something about your experience with Andrea Bocelli in Duomo for Easter 2020?
Yeah, that was a pretty incredible event because started as don't want to say a small event because when you go live on Easter Day on YouTube, it can be small considering even the period where everyone is locked down. So we did expect a kind of a large worldwide audience, but we would never have expected that in few minutes we would jump to something like to 25 millions of contacts. That was really astonishing for us. And so we started to plan it as a live YouTube. Slowly it came up that many other international broadcasters wanted to join and get the signal. And then many other, let's say, online resources like iTunes or Spotify asked for a mixer to get the files on their shops and so on. So the thing grew up in a crazy way. And we found ourselves that from starting from a very restricted space where we wanted to mix just for YouTube, we had to grow up to a mobile van, a proper broadcast van, where we performed two different live mixes, one for YouTube, one for the rest of the broadcasters. The YouTube live streaming is reduced to 128 kilobytes per second, so you need to have a proper mix dedicated to that, different from a full HD signal for broadcasters. Then there was the fight with the acoustics of the church. It's a space that has about 9.6 seconds of RT60, so it's very, very cumbersome place and empty. So we decided the best way was to put a small mic into his ears that no one could see on streaming, but was a Shure TL46 with an accent digital in quad diversity because we had another challenge. The challenge was to cover both the altar zone that is about 150 meters away from the front of the church where he ended the concert, and they would have worked out from the altar to the outside where there was a metal door, so we couldn't share the same pair of antennas from inside and outside. So we had the quad diversity positioned about half of the church with two long antenna cables to reach the altar zone and two long antenna cables to reach outside under the metal door and come out. And if you look with some attention at the YouTube film, you can see that there are two little antennas on the side of a door that we are covering the outside. And so it was quite challenging, and we had very little time to set up everything because there were lots of celebration into the church. So we were allowed to work from, well, to load in, not to work, to load in at 9:30 on Saturday we had to dismantle everything by 7 p.m. because there was a evening ceremony celebration, and then we could start only 1 p.m. on the next day, on show day, with the rehearsal starting around 3 o'clock to go live around 7. So it was really, really a tough setup, and we had to keep distance between the technicians. We had to wear masks. We could not stay, many of us, in the place. So it was really interesting job, let's say. But I'm happy if this brought some joy to the audience, because in a period where there are no live shows, that was a kind of a very live show.
Yeah, like in a compatible way with the limitations. All of us are nowadays having time to use. And out of your experience, how would you recommend to the young audio people to use this time? What are the fields that you see are more relevant in terms of innovation, technology, and also what the future can be, what can be more useful in the future as a skill, as you see the industry evolving into something that will be probably completely new?
I believe there are some fields that are common to the different branches of sound, that is related to the interfacing every hardware with the software. More and more, every hardware is getting either software controlled or remotely controlled by software. So I believe right now most of the audio people need to deepen their knowledge about networks and the way to remote control systems. This can be done to a network of antennas with remote control, or could be done to a network of mixers with remote control, either Dante or AVB or similar protocols. But I think that right now what everyone should deepen is the knowledge about networks in general, and then the specific application about the different technologies that, I repeat, can be many in our field. And then I believe that we should use this time to understand each other, what are our black holes, and deepen our specific knowledge about what we feel are less prepared about. So often it's a very specific application in a specific field, like if I'm a boom operator, I might want to understand what I can do with a wireless boom better than in the past. If I'm working in the PA management, I want to deepen my knowledge about AVB, distribution of network signals, and softwares to measure sound systems. I can deepen what is about RF, the evolution of more distributed antenna configurations. There is a lot coming out with co-diversity, with combiners of antennas. There is a lot to do. And I would never forget the time to listen some good music from a critical point of view. Now all the cities are very quiet. There is a noise floor that probably we will never experience again, or hopefully we will not. And we can listen music. We can enjoy the nuances of a recording. We can try to understand how the record was realized, and try to improve the way we approach with recording, and the way we approach with reproducing such a good sound into a live contest.
And how do you select your tools, and with a specific eye on microphones, obviously, to achieve a goal, the ultimate goal that, in my opinion, it looks to be to have a natural sound, a sound that, especially with an artist like Andrea Bocelli, that's the ultimate goal, to have the technology that is as transparent as possible. So what are your tools, and how you select them? And as well, how do you think the industry is helping in this direction and is evolving in this direction?
Well, actually, I believe that there are two different fields talking about microphones. One field is the close proximity microphones, so are the ones that you use basically the short distance from the instruments, and those needs to be as natural as possible, but as well as selective as possible to avoid the external noises. So it's a compromise between what you want to pick up, that is the essence of the acoustic instrument, and what you want avoid, that is overall stage noise. Then the second field is about the distance microphones, the one that are positioned at about 80 centimeters to a meter, that are giving you the air of the instruments. Let's say that we try to keep the pickup of all the orchestra and choir as natural as possible and as selective as possible, because we have a first part of the show that is quite much acoustic and classical with opera areas, while the second part is more kind of pop electric with some sequences and a pop band plugging in. So we have a full drum kit, electric bass, keyboards with all their monitoring. So basically we need to join an acoustic orchestra, classical, playing the first half with a more pop show in the second. So we need to preserve still the acoustics of the instruments, but give them a little of push to match the level of drum, bass, keyboard, and sometimes electric guitar. So what we do normally, we try to use for close proximity microphones that can be very selective in the meaning that we can mount them very close to the instrument, but are not a kind of a pickup sound. So going through many different brands and models, we came up to use the Shure TL 46, the Twinplex, and we discovered that basically a double diaphragm at short distance is much less influenced by a single diaphragm from the reflections, and so the different position of the microphone that can be always changed by the musician himself. Imagine that they work on stage without microphones, and they plug and position the microphones when they work when they sit down, as well as they need to be able to remove them themselves when they work out at the intermission and go back and reposition them at the beginning of the show. With any other microphone, we always suffer the fact that the microphone was never in the same exact position. Mostly the relationship between the diaphragm and the instrument was not the same, because even if they are omnidirectional, because we do prefer to use omnidirectional because they capture the full essence of the instrument rather than a directional microphone that would change too much depending on the position. Anyway, even in omnidirectional, when you have a single diaphragm, you feel the difference between being close to a reflective surface or being on the opposite side. So with the double diaphragm, we solved that problem. For the distance microphones, we are using mostly ships because we like the sweet sound of ships on the strings, and they have a very nice off-axis pickup that is going to give us a lot of good sound coming up from other instruments around, because when you position microphone about 1 meter away from strings, it's obviously coming in the next row of musicians, so you need a good off-axis pickup. They have a long time using in classical music, so they are not anymore so difficult to find as used to be some 10 years ago. So this is basically the two different choices on stage.
Sounds great. Do you also have any suggestion or any experience with the other side of the industry, so manufacturers or big rental? Because I'm pretty sure some of them will be listening at this point.
Well, actually, we are working with a lot of great and big rental companies from PRG in the US, rather than Brit-Row in UK, and then Twincam in Spain, Agora in Italy. Obviously, we face it as well at Clever Brothers for some events in the US. So we had a large number of rental companies who have been sharing with us their knowledge and renting their equipment and hiring their crew for our shows. So that was an interesting part. I can see that every rental company is quite specific about the work, the organization, the testing procedure, I was amazing the first time I saw, for example, in Britro, they're testing equipment for loudspeakers that they have engineering themselves so that every single loudspeaker that come back from a job is going to be tested truly in every single component through an Audiomatica system and a motorized microphone placement. There are companies who are building in-house all their racks wiring like Clear Brothers and sometimes selling out to cruise ship installation or fixed installation. So there is a big world outside that is working to make this job a kind of standard from an industrialization point of view. I believe that as an end user, I could suggest all these companies to pay attention to the quality of their crew, because who is solving the problems, and there is no way to avoid problems just because a stagehand can drop a loudspeaker during the load in or the load out, or can pull and break a cable and so on. You need to have a really good crew that is accustomed to work long hours, properly prepared and friendly at the end, because what made the difference is as well the relationship. So it's not all about the equipment, but is about having a good crew on the road and being able to interact with them for a final focus that is always the artist and the performance, because the audience is going to pay for a live show if he's going to get something more than not a YouTube stream. And after this long time of lockdown, coming back to a live audience with so much happening on the web will mean to give that extra bit of experience that everyone is expecting from a live sound event.
I think we both agree that we can't see the time of this thing to finish and go back on the field somehow. It was a great experience to interview you. I'm really thankful for the time you spent with me. So thank you very much, and I wish we can meet really, really soon somewhere. Thank you very much, Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea, as well. Have a nice day.
Thanks.